welcome to the Awaken Your Truth Conversations. My name is Denise from denisesimone.com, and today I'm speaking with Kim Fredrickson. Kim was a marriage and family therapist, a life coach, and professor, spending 30 years face-to-face with individuals, couples, and groups, helping them to bring healing to their pains, past and present. And in the last 3 years, she has been diagnosed with both breast cancer and pulmonary fibrosis. And although she was forced to close down her full-time counseling practice, she is determined to use her challenges and her circumstances for good, and has since published her first book, Give Yourself a Break, Turning Your Inner Critic into Your Compassionate Friend. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here talking with you.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here. When you connected with me and then I went ahead and read your story, I just knew that I had to speak with you because you are a perfect example of what these conversations are all about. And what they really are about is being able to, or to develop this ability to be really honest and truthful with ourselves.
Yes.
And to give ourselves that gift, because I really believe that when we are, it opens up a new world for us.
It does.
Yes. And I just really think it's so important to bring awareness to this, because I think the world is in tremendous need of it right now.
Very much, very much.
So can you start by telling us a little bit about your background in your practice and what life was kind of like before you wrote your book and before you were diagnosed with your breast cancer?
Yes, absolutely. So, kind of like you mentioned, I was very active. I had a full-time practice. I loved what I did. I just loved being a therapist. And I also had the privilege of being a professor, like you mentioned, but teaching the next generation of therapists. So I taught in graduate school for 15 years. Just loved that. It felt like such a privilege to build into their lives. I also was a very frequent public speaker. And so I did a lot of talks to people about parenting and marriage and relationships and self-care and self-compassion. I just love that. I actually I love giving information in very simple terms that everyone can understand and actually use. I'm not really up for information for itself. It has to be usable right away. So I was very, very busy and enjoying all of that. Been married for 37 years, have two grown children who are 27 and 28, and just really was enjoying my life. And I'd actually self-published a book first, and then I was about to go to, actually, I guess I'd just been to a writer's conference right before I got cancer, where they really wanted to have me update and publish my prior book, and that's the one you mentioned, the Give Yourself a Break. And so all that was in the works, and then I was in the shower and did a breast exam and found the lump myself. I had had a clean mammogram 9 months before, so it's nothing I was neglecting or anything. I went straight to the doctor and found out that I had breast cancer. Went through a lumpectomy and chemotherapy and radiation. And honestly, it was really hard. Honestly, it was harder than I could have imagined, how difficult that was. Just going through the treatment itself, actually. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to push through it. I'm going to make the best of it, which tends to be kind of how I am. And I had a good 4 days. And after day 4 of finishing treatment, actually, that would have been 3 years ago right now, as a matter of fact. I had all of a sudden started having some breathing problems. Just, I couldn't take a deep breath, and I thought that was odd. I mean, it wasn't really affecting me and wasn't out of breath or anything, but went right to the doctor the next day, and after just a couple of months of testing, they found out that I developed pulmonary fibrosis, which is it's a progressive lung disease. This is why the oxygen, where your lungs scar, and as they scar, you can't take in as much oxygen, and you also it has trouble getting from your lungs to the rest of your body, your organs, and everywhere else. And it's progressive, and it's actually terminal. So that was really a kick in the pants, just like, wow, did not see that coming. And it's incredibly rare,
Yeah.
1%. But I had 4 doctors tell me that not one of them has ever seen that actually happen. They knew about it, it's in the literature, but they never seen that happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this was an opportunity for you to really practice all that you have been helping others with.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, when I first got diagnosed with cancer, I was actually at work when I picked up the call. And of course, I kind of knew. I mean, you could tell by when you go through these tests, they're trying to not let you know, but you could see on everybody's face, like, yeah. So it wasn't completely shocked, but to get the call is always just hard, of course. But right after I kind of went through the shock of like, oh my gosh, it's true. I actually just said to myself, I am going to be a really good friend to myself throughout this process. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to be a good friend. And that really helped a lot. And so, for me, and then of course, once I got pulmonary fibrosis, which was even worse than cancer, same thing. And it's like, how I talk to myself, how I take care of myself, what I do and don't do, all of those things.
So tell me about that. Tell me about compassion as it relates to how we treat ourselves through specific tools and techniques that you have offered to others or you use yourself that you have found really effective.
I think there's a lot of them, but I think the one that probably I use the most and I think could be most helpful for people is honestly their self-talk, the way they talk to themselves. Because, there's been times that I've said to myself just without thinking, like, I'm not going to be able to make it, I can't go through this, I won't ever be able to, whatever the new thing is. When you have a progressive disease, you're stable, and then something happens, and recently something is happening, another dip for me. And every time it happens, it's just like you go through the shock and I grieve. But it's how I talk to myself that's super important.
Yes.
So that makes a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. Can you tell me about the difference between self-compassion and being honest with ourselves and how that affects our relationship? Also being confident, self-confident and self-esteem. Some people, I think sometimes we confuse the two.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Right. And
I agree.
And I think there's a huge difference because we can think we're confident in ourselves and we have this esteem, but internally we're really beating ourselves up.
Right, yeah. How you look and how you feel can be very different.
Completely different.
So the way that I think of it is that I look at self-compassion as really the perfect balance of grace and truth. So grace would be being kind to yourself, being compassionate, talking to yourself, I have great worth and value. And the truth part is being truthful about what's going on, whether that be, in this case, I've got a very serious illness, kind of as serious as it gets. But I'm also great worth. I haven't lost who I am. I haven't lost, and I'm making an impact online now as opposed to in person. But it's both. You're not going to deny either. And I think what happens is the inner critic only looks at maybe the truth part, and I think over amplifies it.
Yes.
The things we do wrong, and but doesn't do the grace part. And then the other way around, you can become very narcissistic, where you just think, oh, this wonderful thing about myself, but
you're in denial.
Yeah, like I think about a typical thing would be like if you really hurt somebody, you don't mean, maybe you didn't even mean to, but the grace and truth would be to say, I'm a person of great worth and value, even though I hurt, I was rough, I was, kind of harsh and critical. But the truth part is, I can do something about that. I love that person. Yeah. I need to go back and say that I'm sorry. That doesn't mean I'm an awful person. It just means I'm a human being who made mistakes and who can rectify and repair that.
Yes.
So I think when we're not truthful, then we end up either being on one side or the other. Either you think you're all bad or you're all good. And then there's zero growth and your relationships suffer, everything suffers.
That's right. It's being able to take ownership without judging ourselves.
Yes.
And being able to see that there is both good. I don't like the words good and bad, but we all have two sides to us. And when we can integrate both in a healthy, balanced way, I feel we're able to utilize our fullest potential when we're able to see both aspects of ourselves in a very honest, self-loving way.
I think so too, because I think what happens is, especially if you're, I'm going to say unwilling, I think it's actually more like you just don't know how to really take an honest look at yourself. It makes us so vulnerable to the opinions of other people, right? Because if someone says to me something, gosh, you really hurt me or something, of course I don't like that because I don't want to hurt somebody and I don't like to think of myself as hurtful. But it's not going to destroy me because I know that I do that. And I also know that I'm a valuable person. So it just makes us just like we're sitting ducks if you haven't been able to resolve that.
Yes. And then how does that shift our relationship with others?
Well, that's the thing is, so a lot of the time people will, I've done, even with my oxygen, I've done a lot of speaking sitting down. It's quite a sight to see. And
I think it's amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And very, very common. And I often speak to groups at churches, and I've integrated my faith with self-compassion. In fact, that's what my book has a basis in, because I didn't see I didn't see any books, actually, to be honest, that integrated self-compassion and faith. So oftentimes I will hear from people, isn't that selfish? Wanting to be giving to other people, isn't that selfish? And this is really your question is, well, actually, when you have self-compassion, when you are kind to yourself and take care of yourself, we are actually less selfish. Because if your needs are being taken care of, you have so much more to give. It's actually when we only give to other people that we become selfish, right? Because everything they do matters. Like, did they like what I did? Did they thank me for what I did? Did they, it makes us actually much more self-focused if we're expecting all of our needs to be met through other people.
And your faith is Christianity?
It is.
Okay, and I find that so interesting because I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but only did I start to really practice self-compassion and even know that it was a thing
Yes.
when I ventured out of Catholicism. I'm still a practicing Catholic, but exploring my spirituality more and really coming to understand that it's an internal practice, and it's something that is common in all religions, right? But I find it so interesting that it took me to go outside of my religion to really understand. So for you, I heard you say that it was rare in your faith for this practice. Why do you think that is?
That's a really good question, because honestly, that's what I was saying. I was doing all this research because I use self-compassion with my clients, and I'm like, this is so helpful. I started reading. I'm like, I'm finding nothing here with the integration, and this is not good. And as a therapist, people always say you should write a book, and I was like, I got nothing to say that nobody else has had to say, so no, I'm not going to write a book. But I actually said, no, I actually do have something to say here. More of the integration. And so I think, honestly, I see it from mostly a good struggle, which was, I think people so much want to be loving. They want to be loving to others. That I just think that they just didn't think about, well, you have to love yourself. And it's so amazing because in the Bible it says the greatest, asked Jesus about the greatest commandment, and he said, love the Lord your God with your whole heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. So clearly we are to love ourselves. How we love ourselves is the model for how we love others.
It's so true.
But for whatever reason, that completely got glossed over. I still don't get it, honestly. But it's been a joy of mine to write about that and to bring some scriptures in that talk about and other ones that talk about how we love our neighbor. And they're all about being kind and compassionate, and this is how we're also supposed. It's a both. Okay, it's not one or the other. And most people struggle with things are either good or bad. they're right or wrong, they're da-da-da, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to, okay, you can have, like with yourself, like we're talking about, you can have wonderful aspects of yourself, you can have aspects that hurt other people, and you're all the same person. You can have both. And
Yes.
so to me, the integration of saying you can accept both parts of yourself and you can have a relationship with God. And I think, honestly, in people's desire to, I don't know, love others and be selfless, that along the way they forgot or didn't know that it was essential to love themselves.
Do you think it has something to do with our life experiences as we grow up, as we
Oh, definitely.
right? So how we perceive the outer world, how we experience or interpret our experiences through people and through what actually happens to us, that oftentimes we build a wall or we build protection around us, and then that limits, that keeps us from being, it's almost like we think we're doing ourselves justice by having that protection, by keeping ourselves safe. But in actuality, it's harming us.
Yes.
So it's has a lot to do with maybe how we're being treated as children into adolescence, into adulthood, and then that teaches us unconsciously, of course, how to treat ourselves.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes, I mean, it's even more than that. It's actually been taught that no, you don't deserve anything, or
Right.
you don't, like it's actually said and modeled, But yeah, and then I really like what you said though. So if you're living in an environment, or even sometimes it's your perception of an environment that you have to continually protect yourself, of course that's going to be your first thing, right? Because you want to survive.
Right.
And so you're trying to protect yourself to survive. And the icing on the cake, which I don't believe is icing on the cake, but sometimes feels that way, is the icing on the cake of taking care of yourself. Like, who's even thinking about that? You're just trying to get through your day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's often a skill that we just need to learn as we grow, and it's totally been learnable.
Yes.
And the people that I've seen that practice self-compassion, they're transformed. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had people say your book was transformational for
That's
me.
amazing.
Because I never knew, number one, it was okay to be compassionate with myself, and I absolutely didn't know how. So it has been just an absolute delight to be able to share this information.
Tell me some of the ways that people have that you've seen changes in people.
I've seen people do whatever it takes to help soothe their system. So whether that's listen to music or do yoga or take long walks, anything that just calms their system, that helps them calm down.
Yeah.
Doing things that they love to do that energize them. Like I recently went on a trip with a friend to the beach. I wanted to go to the beach. And she said, let's go to the beach. And we just had time to just be together and watch the waves. I mean, taking time to say, what is really important to me? And some of that might be, I've always wanted to help people that struggle with this. Yeah. Or I've always wanted to, just taking time for yourself, because we give so much to other people. And that's good, but it just has to be balanced.
Yeah. And it brings you to the present moment, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, rather than living living in the past or living in the future. Fear will do that. Fear, like I always say, I don't want what's happened to me in the past to take the now that I have.
Yeah.
And I don't want my fear of what will happen in the future to take the now that I have.
That's gorgeous. Yeah. So tell me about how having or being diagnosed with breast cancer and pulmonary fibrosis has shown you, I really believe our challenges and our struggles offer us gifts. I think that if we're willing to look in the right places, we could find those gifts. So I think it's a matter of perceiving ourselves as a victim, or perceiving ourselves as in a way that we were given what we were given, because there's purpose and there's reason, that there's a gift there. So for you, tell me about that, how you've been able to see this as almost beneficial for you, where it's really served you.
Yeah, thank you. The words that you're using kind of remind me of, I might be using different words, but very similar thought process of, in the Bible, it talks about God uses all things to work together for good. And so that's kind of how I see this is, would I have, honestly, I can be honest with you and say, am I glad that I had breast cancer and pulmonary fibrosis? Not really. I mean, I would like to live and have grandchildren and those kinds of things. So that part is hard. But because it's true, because I do, there's a lot of good that has come from it and will continue to come from it.
Yes.
So,
and can you talk about, I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to add this. I think it's super important. The idea of acceptance versus resistance to any circumstance that comes our way. How is acceptance transformative in a way that it really opens us up to opportunity rather than resisting what's handed to us?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I kind of look at acceptance as the last part of grief. So, for instance, grief has all these stages, and they go up and down all over the place. Sorrow, anger, resistance, fear, all of those things. And you have to let yourself go through that because it's normal. It's normal to have something horrible happen and to have an emotional process to get to acceptance. And that's really what you're talking about. And so for me, I'm pretty good at grieving. When it hits, I cry and I talk to people and I get through things probably, quicker. It's hard, but I'm not stuck. Okay. And so part of that is then I get to acceptance. And so then acceptance, like for me, it was like, okay, well, I have a progressive lung disease, barring a miracle or a lung transplant, which even that is not a guarantee by any means. I'm going to have a far, far shortened life. And that's what's happening. So how can I use it for good? I thought I was going down this path over here, but I'm not. I'm going down a different path. And so I can use that for good to share with other people, to be honest, having these two pretty, remarkable diseases has made people pay attention more to what I'm sharing about self-compassion.
Isn't that amazing?
I've had more of a platform, so to speak, because people know, or at least they hope, I guess, that I'm living out what I teach. And I am, I can tell you. And people honestly stop me all the time and say, how on earth are you doing this? And I talk about my faith in God helps me enormously, and the support. I have so much support and people that love me. I'm blessed beyond measure in the amount of people that are helping me and with me. And it gives me a chance to share, we really need to be compassionate with ourselves in tough times. And I can tell you that I know what I'm talking about. And so it has given me, I think, much more of a platform to share about, self-compassion in faith, self-compassion in tough times. You and I are talking, that would have never happened. So
that's right.
It's, I think it's easy. It's what I would say is we don't want to get stuck. It's normal to grieve. It's normal to all of that. It's like for me, like I said, I have a progressive. I just found out recently that now my heart is being affected by my lung problems, which is what happens. It's not shocking, but it's like, yep, okay, now I'm in some new thing. And so for the last 2 weeks, it's been lots of grief, lots of adjusting. And now I'm like, okay, all right, so now I'm ready for this next measure. And I, spend a lot of time in prayer. I spend a lot of time talking to other people. I just get lots of support from God and from others and from myself.
Yeah.
And it helps enormously. It's a very different experience than if you're fighting it the whole way. What happens is it gets worse. I mean, it steals the joy you have now. It steals the time you have now. And it steals meaning. Like, what I'm going through has great meaning and value.
Yeah, and what you just said brought up emotional truth. That just triggered that in me. How does emotional truth play a significant role in self-compassion? So you mentioned grieving and being able to just stop and acknowledge that emotions are coming up in you, and you need to really be present with those emotions, because I feel that most of us tend to resist our emotions and fight them because it feels really scary. But that's, again, like what you said, that's how a situation just escalates and gets worse if we don't confront our truth. So what are some practices for you that help you to just process that?
I'm going to say one thing about, I have a chapter in my book, and the main reason I'm saying that is that it's probably one of my favorite chapters. It's on being compassionate with your emotions for the very reason that you just said. And I go through research about actually how children's emotions are handled growing up.
Oh, God, I need to, yes.
Yeah, it's really good. There's 3 pretty negative ways that emotions are handled growing up.
I'm so passionate about that topic.
Oh, good. Well, you'll love that chapter.
You have no idea.
Then there's a really good way. And so I go through all the research, and then I basically go on to say, you can be that compassionate parent to yourself about your emotions. And I actually have tons of things you can say to yourself, you might respond this way, but actually this is the way that's compassionate about your emotions. And, how we were raised with our emotions absolutely sets the standard for our default on how we treat our own emotions. And
can you please just go through those 3 ways quickly?
Yes, I will try to remember. I might look it up.
That's okay. I don't mean to go off the topic, but I just
think it's important. It sounds like I'm just going to look it up right here.
Yeah.
I remember 2 of them off the top of my head. So the first one is dismissing. So, for instance, dismissing style. So dismissing style, like say a child has an emotion, and again, you can think about it, us with ourselves as well, okay? Dismissing style treats emotions as kind of ignoring or dismissing them. A child is crying, or they're upset, or they're sad. Oh, don't worry about that. That's nothing. You'll be fine. So it just dismisses them. They're nothing to pay attention to. You should just pretty much not have them, is what it is. They're no big deal. Just be happy. Just be happy. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is disapproving. So dismissing is just, be gone, kind of you're a gnat, go away, your emotions. But dismissing is actually more, you're actually bad for feeling what you're feeling. So it's wrong for you to feel angry. It's wrong for you to be sad. So you get the double doozy, which is first you've got the painful emotion, and now you're in trouble for having shared it. Now you got 2 problems, okay? You had 1 to start, now you got 2. So you should be able to handle this. You're overreacting. You're being a baby. Stop feeling this way. Okay, that's the second. And then the third is kind of the opposite, which is it's called the permissive style. And so the permissive style is kind of anything goes with no boundaries. So that would be a child who they express strong emotion. Their parent does no discipline. And also their parent doesn't help them calm themselves. I mean, we as children do not know what to do with our emotion. They are raw energy. They can completely overwhelm you. Yeah. So there's no helping a person self-soothe or calm themselves.
Yeah.
And so these are the kids, honestly, that they get in all kinds of trouble at school. People think they're brats. They're entitled, all of this. And at home, it's fine. Like I do this, and Mom just says, "Here, eat this or play this video game," and there's no discipline,
right? And
there's no help to calm self. Okay, so those are the 3, and probably 85% of. Oops, sorry, I hit my mouse there. 85% of people are raised with one of those three.
Yeah. Yes. And
So
there's really nobody to blame. It's just that we were never taught.
Yeah, and our parents were never taught, right? They can't teach something they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing what they learned.
Absolutely.
And even, those kinds of things, even when it feels bad, you don't know what else. What else am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no bad guy here. It's just more, hey, there's a different way.
There's a different way.
There's a different way. And so we call that the emotion coaching, which is, and this is all based on research by John Gottman, by the way. But the part about, hey, applying this to ourselves, that's more of my original work. So, I've got a couple things down here. One would be, first of all, kind of like you said, just be aware of your emotion. Like, what's happening? Something's happening. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we don't even know what to call it, what to label it. So the first, even if you don't know what it is, you could say to yourself, okay, something's going on here. I'm distressed. I don't even know why.
And I really think that is missing in self-awareness, just awareness of our emotions is
absolutely
is something that is really lacking. We think it's the norm to be stressed.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
So there's all sorts of incredibly kind. I'll just read a couple. That's the other thing in the book. I have all the words you say to yourself, and I have stories in there of everyday people that tend to be critical, and then they're kind to themselves. Because in my office, I probably heard this 100 times at least. I would say to somebody, maybe you could be compassionate to yourself about that, like whatever that was they're going through. And they look at me with a blank look on their face. And they say, I have no idea what to say. I have heard that exact line a million times, okay? And so I knew when I wrote the book, I had to actually put things in there for people could say.
Yeah.
So, for instance, this is like awareness, okay? There must be a good reason I'm feeling this way, maybe even more than one reason. I'm going to be kind to myself and just let that feeling be there. Or I'm going to try to not dismiss my feelings, put them down or numb them. I'm going to breathe, take a walk, and let myself know I'll be okay. Even if I don't know what this is. If all of a sudden I was fine and now I have a terrible stomach ache, something is going on there. I mean, maybe it's something I ate, but more likely it's the body expressing emotional pain.
Yeah. And when we're able to really tap into our emotions, do you find that usually they have a message for us? They
always.
They're always trying to communicate with us, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And this is very simplistic, okay, but either this is not working for me, or it is, or I'm needing something, or I'm giving too much, or I'm staying in an environment that's really harmful for me. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of messages, but sometimes what happens is people are afraid to pay attention to their emotions for one reason you already said, which is it's overwhelming and you feel like I'm going to get swept away. The other is that people, they don't know what to do. Well, so if I notice that I'm really angry, so then what? They don't know what to do with their emotion. But I like what you're saying is there's always a message there. Yeah. It doesn't mean you live by your emotion completely.
No.
Because you have to make wise decisions or you're going to have a terrible life, right? But it does mean, try to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah.
So if you realize, what, deep down I actually hate my job and it is destroying me, that doesn't mean you quit tomorrow because you do need to have money to live. But it does mean maybe you really start paying attention to that. You see if there's anything that could be changed where I am now. And ultimately, I'm going to start looking for another job. So you don't want to live by them 100%, but if you ignore them, you are missing really your GPS. I mean, our emotions are our GPS.
Which leads me to that. What is a GPS and how would you describe that? As a feeling, an inner voice? Would you correlate that to intuition? I don't know if you use that.
I think, I love intuition. I mean, I think God has put intuitiveness in us to pay attention to. And I think, honestly, it comes out every single way you said. It comes out in emotions. Mm-hmm. It comes out in a sense, just like a sense that you should pay attention to, intuition. It comes out, honestly, in paying attention to things we often dismiss. Yeah. A lot of times people are like, you know what? I felt this, and I just didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
When people look back and they go, you know what, those are signs. Like, I need to pay attention. But I think our emotions are a huge part of the GPS. I mean, I think they're actually the major part of the GPS.
And if they keep repeating,
yes,
that's
right.
clearly a sign. If it doesn't go away,
right,
and
exactly,
and it gets louder and louder,
exactly.
It's a sure bet we need to pay attention to it.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm a slow learner, so I know.
Me too. It's kind of like on the GPS. You take the wrong turn and it goes recalculating. You're like, yes, okay.
That's right. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure.
Is there anything else that you would like to share that you think is important?
Don't try to do any of this by yourself. I don't mean self-compassion. I mean life. Like, make sure that you have support.
Yeah.
You have support from yourself, and learn. If you don't know how to do it, learn how to do it. Support from others, support from God. Honestly, your faith, whatever that is. It's just so important to realize we're all connected, and we're not meant to go this alone. We're just not. No. And so, like for me, going through something so difficult with all this support just takes the edge off. I mean, it's really hard, but I can't tell you how much easier it is. And I would say, if anyone's been listening that thinks, I would like some super practical help, I always feel weird saying this, but I would encourage them to get my book.
Yes. Can you hold it up and show it?
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to. Let's see if you can see it.
Yeah, I love it. Give your turning your inner critic into compassionate friend. It's so important. Some people don't even know they have an inner critic.
I know. It's like
we all have one. If we're human,
I do have one other thing I wanted to show. And I feel weird, but I just wanted. I don't know. You probably can't. I don't know if you can read this, but I recorded these self-compassionate statements and self-soothing exercises. And they're just my voice doing these things. So yeah, compassionate self-statements, self-soothing exercises to help you build a compassionate relationship with yourself. Awesome. And the reason I bring it up, it's so funny because I actually recorded those after my self-published version of my book, and I had a different name and everything. And I was speaking all over, but actually I was speaking for about 3 months, and then I got cancer. So during those 3 months, I was speaking a lot of places. And I would just read some of the statements in the book. I would just say, close your eyes. What would it be like to talk to yourself like this? And I would just say some things, okay? And I had, within a couple of months, 50 people in person, on email, or whatever, say, do you have those recorded? And I said, no, I don't have those recorded. And I'm a slow learner, right? So after the 50th person, I went, all right.
I was just going to say. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I really wasn't going to do that.
And didn't that happen with your book, too?
It did. The same thing. I'm like, I don't want to write it all down. But I'm like, okay. Yeah, so all this is under complete duress, okay? Yeah. But now, of course, I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful that I listened, that I paid attention. And so the reason I mentioned the CD is I've had hundreds, of people tell me that when they listen to it and they hear those words over and over, that all of a sudden they start saying them to themselves. Like there's something about, and not everybody's this way, not everybody's like that, but for those people that listening to really goes in, I've had people tell me like amazing things, like it helped them with their anxiety more than therapy. I mean, like, I've had quite a few of those people, like I don't even know, have just stopped me to tell me.
Well, and anxiety really, what is anxiety? It's the messages we give ourselves that create fear.
Total fear, yeah.
Right? So when you're soothing yourself with those beautiful messages, you're creating a whole new energy in your system.
Absolutely. It completely calms your system. And I have some exercises on there on doing visualizations and things like that too. So it's just, any help we can give ourselves, especially to learn something new. I mean, if self-compassion is new, which I think it is for almost everybody, you're not supposed to know how to do it. If you've never been taught, why would you know? I mean,
absolutely.
Right? You don't know. So if I could be of a help to someone on the way there, I would find that a great delight.
I am sure it's happening already, and I'll be sure to put those links down below, down below the interview. Yes, I'll put.
And you can even download the CD off of iTunes if you just put my name in.
Okay, great.
So yeah.
Okay, so I'll put that all down below the video so people can find that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. If I can help,
I would like to. You know, again, it gives meaning, deeper meaning to everything I'm going through as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that is the whole basis of these conversations, is really being able to turn our challenges into opportunity. But it's up to us to really see that we're being handed situations so that we can do something with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember visually seeing a fork in the road. I mean, I'm pretty visual. And I thought, okay, I can go down this path over here of being a victim and feeling sorry for myself, or I can go down this other path. And you know what? I'm picking this one. I mean, it was a decision, like, I am not going to succumb to all this. I'm just not.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me and for all of your work. I just so appreciate it. I've watched several of your videos, and I appreciate just the variety of people that you have come to share it. It's just very opening up and expansive to hear people from all different areas of wanting to bring healing and hope.
Yeah, because I don't believe we're different. Our journeys look different externally, but internally, we're all being given something so that we could be of service.
Yes,
right? So
absolutely.
That we could make a difference. So it really doesn't matter how it happens. What matters is what we do with it, right?
Right. I 100% agree.
Yeah. So I just adore you.
I adore you as well.
And I find you to be so inspirational. And I just,
Thank you.
So share your website so we know how to find you.
Oh, sure. It's www.kimfredrickson.com.
Okay.
So it's KIMFREDRICKSON. And actually, I have a blog on there called Self-Compassion for Real Life that you can sign up for. And also, I just started, I'm so glad you asked me because I forgot to tell you, I just started a Facebook page. It's Facebook.com/The Self-Compassion Club, all one word. And it's just a page. Anybody can come, and I put all kinds of self-compassion things on there, stories and techniques and things like that. That anybody can just go.
Is that a private? Is it a private group or is it a public?
I made it a public group so anybody could.
Wonderful, awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd enjoy having people visit me there as well.
It's important. We all need community, right?
We do, and it's only been up for, I don't know, a week and a half, and I already have over 250 people. That just tells you there's a need. People want community to be able to go, hey, I'm working on this too.
Yeah.
So it's fun for me to be able to do stuff at home in my easy chair with my feet up, which is about what I need to do.
Isn't that the best?
It is the best.
Thanks to social media, right?
Yes, exactly.
It can be used for good.
It absolutely can be used for good.
Yes. Well, thank you, Kim.
You're very welcome.
I love talking to you.
I love talking to you. My pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.